are listening to Abnormal Spaces.
I'm Donnie.
I'm Ryan.
In this podcast, we discuss conceptual realities, the researchers, authors, and explorers who describe and define them, as well as our personal experiences in these abnormal spaces. In this episode, we discuss technologies discovered by Dr. Raymond Rife, which have led to the targeted destruction of specific cells. In time, these concepts will lead to more effective cancer treatments. Once again, Ryan has personal first-hand experience with the Spooky2 device, which utilizes these technologies. One thing that I think is funny is literally almost anything that I start to look into, like you either have already read a book about it or you own the product or something. And so like I was checking out these healing frequencies that Dr. Raymond Rife had kind of discovered. And so I found out about various machines that, you know, now you can buy and use on yourself. But one thing that just floored me, I saw this TED Talk. And it's like 9 or 10 years old. And this guy's name, I believe it's Anthony Holland. He was one of the researchers that was able to not only identify particular frequencies, but then film it and replicate it. And he used it to target cancer cells. So it was really interesting because he started with some kind of single cellular organism, and I can't remember the name of it, but then he moved up to paramecium. It was really neat when he showed the video of the paramecium, is there was another single cell organism like moving around it. And when he hit it with the frequencies, the paramecium started to essentially disintegrate. He called it shatter. But anyway, the other thing that was moving around wasn't harmed at all. It did get out of the way, but I thought that was really cool. But yeah, so he showed their recordings of like pancreatic cancer and ovarian cancer. And, you know, they weren't able to 100% eradicate it, but some of them they terminated as much as 60%. And then also all of them slowed the growth of the existing cells. So, you know, the idea is maybe you do this once a year or, you know, once every 6 months or whatever it takes to keep it in check. And there's no toxic effects, nothing else is hurt. And I was just blown away. Like we've talked about this before, when there is actual recorded evidence of these things working, then I'm on board. And when I saw this, I couldn't believe it, honestly. So then I saw another video. It was a news report from 15 years ago. And it was this cancer researcher at one of the leading cancer research labs. I think it was in Texas. And essentially same results. And so I'm thinking, man, you guys have been working on this for a long time. Why? And I don't want to even go into that tangent, but it just strikes me as an effective tool. And why are we not seeing this more often? And, you know, by now, maybe they're up to 80% or 90%, you know. But yeah, so I found out about the Spooky2 machine. Before we start recording, I asked you about it, and oh yeah, you've got one. So I want to hear about it.
Yeah, that's kind of my thing, man. Hearing about weird stuff and then buying it. That's my life story pretty much. You know, earlier on it was harder because like stuff was way more expensive than it is now. And now like things are becoming they're still expensive, don't get me wrong, but they're not like $10,000 expensive. Some of things are.
Well, but I mean, if you're getting cancer treatment, you may be spending $5,000 a month. Well, not you, your insurance, but hopefully.
Oh,
but,
totally.
But yeah, I mean, or you could just buy this one time.
Yeah. So, God, there's so much to explain. So Spooky2 is a software with a frequency generator based system. So the database and all the workings and all of the fine tweaks and everything are obviously in this software, and the generators are separate, from they're USB connected. These generators are like very high quality. I mean, they go up to like 40 megahertz maybe.
Oh, wow.
So
So we can't even hear it. It's inaudible.
it's not even like
Yeah.
a thing of hearing. So it's like 0 to 40 megahertz.
Wow.
There are like 5 different ways to utilize this technology. There is a remote, there is a cold laser, a pulsed electromagnetic field device, and there is a plasma bulb with a central unit that is actually another big box, and you have to use that to work that plasma bulb. There's also a contact mode where you can use TINS pads.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Right?
Yep.
I guess the biggest popular thing about Spooky2 is that they use action at a distance, and that's why it's called Spooky2, because Einstein was questioned about that at some point, and he called it spooky action at a distance.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right? So there's like a little remote that plugs into a BNC port, which is like a computer type port on this generator, and you open it up, and inside there, if you were to take it apart, it would be a little scalar antenna. So like I think it's called a bifilar coil, which is what Tesla came up with.
Yeah.
And it produces what they call scalar waves, which is like a zero field. I don't really understand it, to be 100% honest. Like, I've read about scalar stuff, and it basically carries information.
Yeah.
And it can imprint information into water, into like different things too. So like homeopathic type things.
Yeah.
But it carries information without time and space directly to whatever is inside of that little remote. So like basically if you take fingernail clippings have that keratin, and they contain that DNA for a really long years
Right.
and years and years and years.
Yeah.
So I have several people in each one, and if you guys are welcome to add your fingernails too, but don't be surprised if you're feeling weird, because stuff does happen physiologically to your body. I've had to stop it several times whenever it hits on a certain set of frequencies that affects something that is not right in your body.
Right. Yeah.
Okay, so the plasma is the strongest technology. There's a long straight tube, and there is it's called a phanotron tube. And that's the technology that Raymond Rife used originally, was a phanotron tube. It looks like a little globe.
Yeah.
And it has like a weird little metal set inside of it, and it sort of angles out and points and focuses the energy to a narrower beam.
Yeah. That
right?
makes sense. Yeah.
So that's what he used for like the first 31 or 32 viruses that he killed with his sets back in 1930, 1920.
Yeah.
Right? So they just expanded upon that now. And there's like Russian researchers and scientists that have sets in there.
Yeah.
There are, John White's sets. There's a lot of different people in there that have contributed to this sort of thing. There's a folder that says user shell. The user shells are specific pre-made shells that don't contain any programs. So the programs would be the sets of frequencies.
Right.
So like if you had herpes, like you would put in, I'm trying to think of like something, if you had like stomach virus, then you could go into the programs, and there's like thousands of them, and then you just type in stomach virus, and it'll have all these different like things for stomach virus.
Yeah.
You can load that into a pre-made empty shell, and these do different things. So like there's one called Universal H-bomb square wave or something like that, and it's very good at killing, right?
Right.
There's one that is Anthony Holland's 11th harmonic. And so what he figured out is that you have to add some kind of 11th harmonic in order to make the program frequencies much more usable to the body or to the DNA. It's so experimental.
Well, real quick, not to interrupt you, but so he was a musician, or is a musician, and he was, I don't know if he was classically trained or what, but that's how he knew to try the 11th harmonic. It started, according to the TED Talk, with essentially tuning forks and how they would have sympathetic vibrations, sympathetic resonance, like passive speakers or anything else. So I think it's crazy that, he brought in that music knowledge and was like, oh, let's try the 11th harmonic.
Right. And in an earlier podcast that we did, I don't know which one, we started talking about distortions and natural harmonics and things like that. And I was talking about how the sine wave is so pure.
Yeah.
I feel like that's not organic because there's no sine wave in organic world.
Right. Yeah.
So, it just seems to me there would be natural distortions and harmonics that would come into play in a natural way for healing the body. I mean, it just makes sense to me. So that 11th harmonic is really interesting.
Yeah. Oh, cool.
It doesn't even mean anything here.
Right. It's all just intentions.
The plasma, there are a lot of testimonials of curing bladder cancers, curing Lyme disease. You can go on the Spooky2 website and go into, there's a forum, and you can read a lot about testimonials of things that have happened. It's insane.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just, I'm going to say cure on this fucking show because nobody's going to listen to it. And if anybody does, then you can...
Well, we're not scientists, so we can say cure.
Yeah, we're not scientists. We're not this is just personal experience and just digging into weird stuff that we like,
Yeah.
I've converted Donnie in some kind of weird way. I feel like I've messed with his brain wiring. I'm like, check this out.
Well, what's great is I was already there as far as, just, nonlinear time and subjective reality. So I was primed.
That's how we started.
That's how we started. Yeah. But the more I learn that builds upon those premises, because you have to accept those premises first. But if you can accept that, then you can look at some of this other stuff and see how they work together. Interestingly, this is a side tangent. I scrolled through the comments on this one YouTube video, and someone quoted a Nostradamus prediction that had to do with sound frequencies and light and curing ailments. And I'm like, okay, this is all it ties together too neatly almost.
Yeah. Tesla said it too.
Yeah. Yeah.
What is it? It's energy, frequency, vibration.
Right.
That's everything.
Right.
My box was fucking scooting up.
Can't let your box scoot off.
My box scoot off on me like that.
Back to Spooky2. So John White's the creator. I don't know a whole lot about this guy, but he seems like a genius.
Yeah.
When you hear him talk, you're like, oh yeah, this guy's a little off, but he's really soft-spoken. He's real zen. I think he's from New Zealand.
Okay, yeah, I did see. I stumbled on this one interview, or it was a video with him, but it had a lot of Chinese in it. And when the Chinese people would speak, I was trying to do something else, so I'd have to stop what I was doing to look at the subtitles.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, that guy seems super zen, and he seems on a different level.
I don't know how many people were in with him, but man, I'll show you the software and you'll be like, this looks like a spaceship.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
There are symbols and phrases and things that I don't understand.
Yeah.
Especially when you go into the advanced settings and stuff. I kind of just stay with what I know for now, which is all I need.
I don't know how we can edit this, but the scalar waves.
Yeah.
So, and the scalar antenna. So the video that I had seen that was 15 years ago, they were actually having to attach antennas to the cells to be able to use the frequency. And then what Anthony Holland did was he was able to somehow make it create its own antenna. And that was the difference. So I guess, there was some progress between 15 years ago and 9 years ago, but still, that's very promising. And also, it's exactly what you were talking about. It's the antenna.
I think what was figured out was that the DNA is an antenna.
Yeah.
It's a receiver, and that's everything.
Yeah.
So, cells contain DNA. Like everything is DNA.
Right.
So that's kind of the deal, I think, with this whole thing. And yeah, the scalar stuff is fascinating to no end to me.
Yeah.
Like we'll do one on the multiple wave oscillator and George Lakhovsky, but man, that still blows my mind. And there are companies that make those.
Yeah.
And they start at, like, I think one that I saw was 11,000.
Oh, wow.
And they go up to about 25, depending on what company. You can build them too if you're cool.
Yeah.
But I am not cool. Anyways, don't be surprised if somewhere in the life of Mr. Grisham that you come down here and there's this crazy
Contraption.
machine. And I'm like, hey, sitting between these antennas.
Right.
Because I will.
Well, and you said you wanted to like get in my brain, so there you go.
But it's the same premise. And his premise back then in the 30s, that like when all this awesome stuff was happening, was that there was a certain bandwidth which was for the human body and all of its processes. And it wasn't harmful to any of the processes of the body. And I guess he theorized that it was kind of in this megahertz, gigahertz, and below. What kilohertz, all that. And so what his thing was, instead of targeting just one thing, it was to raise the cellular voltage of the entire organism.
Mm.
So with the law of resonance, since every cell has a different shape and thumbprint, then they would all find their frequency within this bath of frequencies from one to whatever.
Yeah.
And that was done with spark gap and the copper antenna concentric rings. And each one of those rings would make the other rings vibrate. And one was a sender and one was a receiver. And you sit in between this on a wooden chair with no metal on anything.
Yeah.
And it just goes through. And man, like 10-minute sessions is all you need.
Wow.
And I mean, there's so many documented cases of like, they used to use them in hospitals. Let's not talk about that now. That's another episode.
So good. I can't believe how good that
So Spooky2, plasma is the strongest. Plasma goes through pretty much any solid, and that's the one that people are using for serious problems. But the remote works pretty much just as well. It just takes longer. Contact mode is 10's unit, and you can do a biofeedback, which this is a really cool thing. You just put these TENS pads on your abdomen, and you hit biofeedback scan. It'll scan your entire body with all the frequencies from 0 to 40 megahertz.
Yeah.
And it will find the top hits, and it'll ping back to it. And so it pings back to the software, and it tells you the top 10 hits of what your body, whenever it hit a frequency, it was like, ooh, and then it hit it back.
Yeah.
Then what you do is you run that set in one of those empty user shells.
Ah, okay.
Right?
Yeah.
And you run it for about 2 days or 3 days, and then you do another scan, and then you'll have a different set. You can run a thing called hunt and kill, where it scans and you get the sets, and then it'll run it, and then it'll do another scan. And then because things want to hide,
Right.
they'll hide in your lymph nodes and shit.
Yeah.
It's crazy, man. Like,
Yeah.
Hey, go ahead. I don't know what you're going to say.
Well, no, I was going to ask. So, like a year or so ago, or maybe longer, you showed me these old plasma tube things that you had, and one of them was like a comb. And
Oh, yeah. The violet ray.
The violet ray.
Yeah.
So, is there any correlation, overlap? How is that different than the plasma bulb for the Spooky2?
Okay, so everything about Rife was specific to the germ or the disease cell or whatever it was.
Mm-hmm.
The violet ray is like a small multiple wave oscillator,
Okay.
in that it uses a spark gap inside there and two resonating coils. There's like one is the base coil, and then that resonates with the coil that has a lot of turns, and it steps the frequency up really high.
Okay.
That's where it lights up the tube
Yeah.
and the gas inside of the tube, and then it produces a field. The field is easy to see because you can just take a loose fluorescent light bulb and hold it and bring it up, and it'll light it.
Oh, cool.
Right?
Yeah.
So that's what it's doing inside of your body,
Okay.
right?
Yeah.
Creates the sparks. They call it like effluva or something like that. It's like the real hair-like sparks that come off of it, and they don't necessarily hurt. They're just kind of like prickly.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's raising cellular voltage,
Right.
but it's more localized.
Okay. And it's localized, but it's not specific, I guess.
It's not specific.
Okay.
No.
So my question is, it is typically easier in nature to tear something down or to destroy something than to build something, or it appears easier to us. So my question is, can they, if they now know how to target specific cells and destroy them, can they build cells back? So you have an injury or something and you need to rebuild. Are they there yet? Can they do that?
I know they are in certain ways. The use of colloidal silver and silver products, those will create new stem cells. Those will create new tissue. Like as far as organs and things like that, I'm not sure yet.
Yeah.
But what the basis of these kinds of technologies is that the body wants to heal. So like the only thing our body wants to do is be in balance, like everything else.
Yeah.
And we're constantly just making it mad. So
we're constantly imbalancing it.
right.
Yeah.
So it's constantly trying to get back to balance. Like our liver it's the most important thing almost. Everything else is important. But I've heard if your liver is clean, then cancer can't even happen.
Yeah.
What happens is you get the fatty liver just from how your lifestyle is. You can get all kinds of different clogs, and people never detox or never
Correct.
do any kind of programs or anything like that.
Yeah.
I'm real into that these days, not to be a health nut or anything, but I realize the importance of it, especially getting older.
Well, yeah. Well, and essentially it's a filter. And so if you think about any kind of machinery that needs a filter, the machinery can work perfectly. But if that filter is clogged and no good, you'll just burn up the machine.
Right. And it's the only organ that can completely regrow in, I think, 3 months.
Oh, is that all?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
I think it's 3 months is how long it takes for the liver to completely be brand new. I think they were talking about you could cut out like 90% of the liver, and in like 3 months it would be a liver again.
Wow.
But I don't know how you'd live. I guess you'd live like artificially.
Yeah,
during
right,
that
yeah.
time. But it's really interesting.
Yeah.
But the body's intelligence, all it needs is favorable conditions to heal anything.
Yeah.
Now, the biofeedback thing is great. Doesn't tell you specifically what. It's just the numbers, but they have a good idea of kind of like what ranges certain things like hang out in,
Yeah.
and all that stuff. It wouldn't be a podcast episode without the barking of the dogs.
I mean, we might as well include them in the credits.
Yeah, I mean they're going to be in every episode. So we're not that professional.
So good. I can't believe how good that's
All this stuff's expensive.
Yeah, I was noticing that too. To do it right, as far as like the Spooky2, getting the machine, getting a Windows computer to operate it, getting the plasma bulb and stuff. I mean, you're going to spend $4,000 or $5,000.
Right.
But again, if the treatment is $5,000 a month or whatever,
Right.
It makes sense to me. I guess the next thing is, I wonder what is stopping a person from investing in that equipment and having a little office and like treating people.
Well, they can. I think it's just more like a chiropractic type thing or a massage type thing.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Well, so I know a person that owns a cryotherapy machine and device, and he was originally here, but he found a better market in Tennessee. And so he moved down there to do it. people swear by it. And a lot of times with the cryo stuff, you're supposed to thermocycle. You get in a cold tank, you freeze, and then you get in a sauna or something hot, and you warm back up, and you go back and forth. But he's got a localized one that it's kind of a small area, maybe an inch in diameter. And so, like for athletes and people who need their muscles kind of reinvigorated or whatever, that's what he does. And so, same thing, akin to chiropractic or Reiki or anything like that. I suppose if you invest in the equipment, you can set up shop as long as people sign enough disclaimers and whatnot.
Yeah.
Probably can't take insurance, but
No, as long as you follow the stupid rules, like
Yeah.
I think you can do stuff like that.
yeah, as long as you say, this won't really heal you, but come on in because it's going to actually heal you. But,
I mean, that's my whole life with all this stuff. All you can get are testimonials in it. Occasionally, some white papers on experiments that have been done around things.
yeah,
They don't really like go off too hard, but they do prove a lot.
yeah. There was a pancreatic cancer tumor. And Anthony Holland used the term disaggregate, but you could see it in real time separate.
Mhm.
And once that tumor is separated, obviously it's not growing, and now it's shrinking, and it can't come back. It can't grow back. I mean, I guess eventually, if those cells replicated and, it can form a new tumor, but that tumor is never going to exist again. And I see this stuff and I just want to shout it from the mountaintops because you can see it. It's not doctored. It's clear.
Right. There's an interesting preset for, I believe it's cancer, if you go under cancer. And apparently there's a species of bacteria I think it's called Bacillus licheniformis. And that's what's believed to be at the heart of every mutated cancer cell. So it can't live without that. It can't be created. It can't mutate. Cells can't mutate.
Interesting.
Now, I don't know that to be a fact or whatever, but I'm looking into that more, and I run that one. That's in a set,
Yeah.
And I'm like, well, because they did there was a person that had a tumor, they were going to have to do surgery or whatever. And I guess they talked to John Whiter, one of those guys, and they used a cancer protocol, and it had the licheniformis or whatever in there. And they went back for a blood test. I think it was within like 2 months or something like that. And the cancer had spread from the tumor. It was malignant. The tumor, I guess, had shrunk by about half, but wherever it had spread, there was no cancer in the entire body.
Oh, wow.
After that, they couldn't find it.
Huh.
So I think they took the tumor out and,
Yeah.
whatever. When I think about this kind of stuff, I think there's a lot of different avenues. There's obviously the chemical avenue. There's how cells and mutated cells like use enzymes in certain things, and you can interrupt that, or you can cause them to eat themselves and cause them to starve. There's water fasting. I mean, there's so much stuff that you can use with this kind of cancer protocols and things like that, and some of them are a little more taxing. I guess it's just depending on like what you have and how like, I wouldn't even say how hard it is to get to, because those frequencies, I mean, it's resonance.
Yeah.
If it's there, it's there.
Right. Yeah.
It resonates. It doesn't matter.
That term sounds like both a fungus and like a mold.
Yeah, totally.
That's I mean, I don't know what that term is exactly, but that's what it sounds like to me. There's a lot of research that supports bacteria-based or fungal-based cancer.
All these guys were coming to the same conclusion in different areas of it, but they all like come to the fact that once you get the body to a state where it's not overloaded by the bacterias, molds, yeast, fungus, all that, virus, then it can actually put all of that power and energy into eliminating what's left.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Get rid of the waste. Get rid of the yeah. With the Spooky2 stuff, is it similar to the binaural beats in that it's two different frequencies?
Mm-mm.
No. Okay.
It's like frequency sets. Some of them are dual frequency sets because each generator has 2 ports, right? So you can hook up 2 remotes to each generator.
Okay.
So I have 2 generators, so I have 4 remotes, and they can each run a program.
I see.
And you can stagger them too. So if you really wanted to like attack something, you could run this program, start it here, wait for 10 minutes, start this one, wait for 10 minutes, start that one, wait for 10 minutes. And then, and then it would just like constantly barrage you with that. Right?
Yeah. Wow.
And they recommend that for a lot of different things like Lyme disease and all that because there's so much going on with it.
Mm-hmm.
But basically, it's just frequency sets. It's just specific frequencies that have been documented either in labs or through biofeedback in treating people and whatever other ways. Like, I don't even know. Like I said, the David Halliday, like the dowsing, that's extremely experimental. But so many people are just like the DH experimental frequency sets are incredible.
Wow.
And I was saying this earlier, but his thing was in the instructions, it's to put your left arm as close to the remote as you can, and you run the first 6 sets, and they only flash 24 times, just one frequency.
Okay.
And you only have to do it 1 or 2 times, that's what it says. And then you can run everything after those for like specific problems. You know?
Yeah.
And you don't have to be with your arm up there, but apparently, like being in your field, your energetic field, it really helps, according to him. But you don't really have to. Obviously, there's one called 2-3 Generation and Repair. Like if you get on Facebook, Spooky group or what, it's huge. There's a lot of posts about and pictures of this repair that happens and the cavities fill in and it become white.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Oh, that's impressive.
Over it looks like 4 weeks or like 8 weeks. Like it's just amazing stuff.
Wow.
You know,
yeah.
Fillings have fallen out because of the regrowth.
They got pushed out.
Yeah, they got pushed out. And it doesn't seem real. I think that's the thing with...
It's too good to be true.
Well, it is, but actually it does take a lot of work and a lot of study and a lot of persistence. And I believe the majority of people aren't... I don't want to say they're not willing to. It's just such an it can be an inconvenience unless you have something really serious.
Yeah, and you're willing to try anything.
You're going to die or something, you know? And unfortunately, it takes that for a lot of people to be like, oh, well, there's this thing that can do that. You know what I mean? Like, or if I had like this multiple wave oscillator, like I'm just like, well, you just sit in there a few times a year and then you should be all right.
Yeah.
You know? Like, and it just doesn't make sense.
Right. Yeah. Right. Yeah. Well, and part of that is just conditioning. I mean, we're conditioned to believe that, you know, the chemicals in a particular pill or shot or whatever are the best that science can do, and that, you know, that's the effective medicine that we have now. But it just almost feels barbaric.
It is barbaric
because there's so much collateral damage done. And then, you know, and I hate to always bring it back to Star Trek, but I mean that the whole tricorder thing, like to me, it's just not that far fetched. It uses light, it uses sound, etc. And you know, hopefully that's where we're headed.
This is crazy. That microphone right there.
I know.
See that compressor? How much it's hitting it?
Oh shit.
Everything needs to, I think, be just looked at as frequency and resonance and vibration. These technologies that we are able to even look at right now are ancient. I mean, still, they're ancient. And things that actually, like the med beds or whatever, even above that, we are not allowed to see them. For whatever reason, because you got to be really careful with that kind of stuff.
Right,
you know?
yeah.
Like if you're going to release something like a med bed or thing, you have to like almost have 100 of them done and just boom.
Right.
Like so that nothing can be done, you know? Like, You just have to, and you got to be underground and like.
I was going to
careful
say,
about
yeah,
it,
like
know?
you almost need to be in a bulletproof vehicle at all times or something.
Yeah, like you ever heard the expression, "The revolution will not be televised,"
Right,
like things
yeah.
like that. And I always think about that.
Yeah.
It's always under the radar.
Right. Yeah. It needs to
And
be.
people are like, "Well, if there's all these things, why don't I see it on the news?" And I'm like, "Well, I used to be that guy that said that."
Yeah.
Until I started looking and seeing and messing around with the things, I'm like, "Yeah, it works."
Well, that
You know,
that and you know, when you realize that what the news is actually for, you know, it's not going to be promoting this kind of stuff.
No, it's not. It's like it's not even connected.
Right. And it doesn't do them any good, nor their sponsors any good to talk about this stuff.
It doesn't do pharmaceutical companies any good. It doesn't do the medical industry any good. It doesn't do anybody any good
Right.
to say, "Oh, do you want a favorable environment for your body to naturally heal itself throughout your life? This is how much this cost. Set it up. Just use it regularly.
Right.
Not even crazy." What would happen?
Right. Yeah.
It would all be gone.
It would all be gone.
Right.
A lot of people would be out of a job.
Right. And, you know, and then you go to AI and stuff like that, a lot of people are going to be out of a job.
Right.
And just, it's inevitable. That's the thing. We're at a crux. We're at a point here.
That and just the whole job thing, not to get off on a tangent, but I don't understand why we're so worried about having a little jobby job. I mean, I don't think that my vibrations really need to go and perform a task for X amount of money. You know, is that really the best that I can do? But that's the thing. Like, you know, we have this whole society built around this, you know, and you got to keep people busy because if you don't keep them busy, then
They
who knows?
might think for
They
themselves.
might, and who knows what they'll get up to.
Right.
So it's extremely frustrating to know that all of us are stuck going through certain motions that are arbitrary and unnecessary. And it's just to serve the interests of people who want to make sure we're just going through the motions.
And it makes us tired and it wears us down.
Yeah.
And it makes us worried and stressed. All the things that are unfavorable for
Right.
your body to regenerate at any point.
Right.
You don't sleep enough. You don't drink enough.
Right.
And it's not that you don't drink enough water. I've recently learned that hydration has everything to do with minerals.
Mhm.
So if in your water you're not providing those minerals in a way that your body can uptake them, it doesn't go into the tissues. It just goes out of your pee.
Oh, yeah.
So they call it, this guy was calling it the white jug syndrome, like where everybody carries that huge jug
Yeah,
of water,
right,
right?
yeah.
And they're not hydrated at all.
Yeah.
It's just chronic. Like everybody, he said like 98% of us, it's just chronic dehydration. And that's like the biggest part of our problems
Makes sense.
in that way.
Yeah, yeah.
And that's not even to like go into stuff like energy healing and being able to like sense and raise subtle energies. Anyways, back to Spooky2. I think that I really don't have much more to say about it.
Yeah, I mean, we've covered a lot, and now we run the risk of just going off on all these different tangents.
Right.
So, yeah.
Which is fine.
Which is fine. But, yeah, I mean, if you only had time to listen to, watch, research one thing, it would be that Anthony Holland TED Talk. Because I'm telling you, once you see the video of those cancer cells getting destroyed.
Yeah, I have seen Anthony Holland, and I've seen those videos where they start rotating real slow, and then the goop comes out of them and explodes, right?
Wild.
Yeah. So, and he did that with sound. It's the future. It's the now of medicine, actually, but it's being suppressed and it's being quacked. It's
right. Something. It may have been in that TED Talk. It may have been somewhere else. But it was a doctor, and he was telling another doctor about this, and the other doctor said, "You know, it's too bad this isn't a pharmaceutical because you would have a patent and a ton of money, but it's not, so no one's going to take it seriously."
Exactly.
Yeah, and that's a shame.
So that's where, I think doctors, they are wonderful people, probably for the most part. They really want to do good. It's just that they're only allowed to practice what they're taught.
Right.
And what they're taught is very narrow.
Yeah, limited.
And it is to benefit the industry.
Yeah, the machine.
And it's just a shame. And it's happening more now. I'm seeing it. People are becoming naturopaths instead of doctors. I mean, they've been doctors, and they're like, you know what? This is just barbaric.
Yeah, my former doctor was an osteopath. So they have additional schooling, and they learn how all of the systems work with each other. So he had had his practice maybe 10 years tops, and he had a bad motorcycle accident, and then he just retired altogether. He just, I'm not doing this anymore. And I think part of it was he had enough. He was really frustrated with insurance and billing and stuff like that, and I think he felt too limited by laws and everything else, and he just gave up. And it's sad. There's a smart person that's done a lot of schooling that figured it out and said
Paid a lot of money
and threw his hands up in the air and said, "I'm done."
Yeah, totally.
Yeah, because
nobody wants to hear anything about curing.
Right.
Nobody wants to hear it.
It's all treatment.
Yeah, treatment's forever.
Treatment's forever.
Yeah. So it's the thing in my mind that is the top thing that needs to be addressed, because it's coming anyway.
Right.
What's happening now is you've sprayed the bug spray, and the bugs are like trying to find a place to hide.
Right.
That's where we're at, and eventually it won't be able to be suppressed anymore because the technology is moving so fast, like with quantum computing, like AI, all this stuff is it's going to happen.
Right. Yeah.
And what would be more amazing than not having to have a job,
right,
that just makes you sick and makes you just
it takes you away from the things that you love, takes you away from your family, takes you away from all of these things.
I've heard the argument, well, if nobody has jobs, what are we going to do? Well, I mean, if you want to work,
sure, yeah,
doing what you love,
right,
do it.
Well, how cool would it be to have a different job every year? Like, I'm going to be an electrician for a while. I'm going to be a carpenter for a while, whatever.
Right, exactly.
But, we're locked into this ideal that we didn't create, and we're kind of stuck.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's coming though. I mean, I can't wait. People are like AI, oh no, or all this stuff and scared of it, but I'm not scared of it at all. I'm just like, there's going to be some weird stuff about it that's not cool.
Right.
There's going to be some probably terrible stuff at some point, but it's just inevitable.
That's the thing. You can't fight it. It's already coming.
It's already here.
It's already here. Right.
So anyways, with that, sleep tight.
So good. I can't believe how good that sounds.